go back. Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Morning Constitution. Here we're at the Old Times Smoke Shop in Seminole County. I'm excited to be here with the Vice Chairman of the Republican Party of Florida and a Winter Springs resident. So our Central Florida audience can be very happy that you're going to get to have somebody local talking about the state issues. So, Jesse, introduce yourself. Let the audience know who you are.
I'm Jesse Phillips. I'm the Republican State Committee man from Seminole County and the Vice Chairman, newly elected, I guess we can still call it, Vice Chairman of the state party. And the folks in Winter Springs you mentioned know me as public enemy number one out there. So I've got a number of titles I like to throw around.
Wait a minute, you're number one and Greenberg and Greenberg at number two?
We fight each other for the title. But I think at the end of the day, I've had more weeks at number one than he has. It's like golf rankings, right? How many weeks set straight have you been number one? So we hand that title back and forth.
Well, I appreciate and the people that watch our show appreciate you coming by. And look, there's going to be a lot of distractions. I wanted to do this in a public place. I want to do it in Seminole County. So I really enjoy the fact that you give us that valuable thing called time. Now, my first question is, what the hell are the Democrats doing when they don't have a primary in the state of Florida? Now, you've got to, you can't make this shit up. Should be doing this show, but we're not.
I mean, it's a good question. We were all flabbergasted when we saw that happen. Although it doesn't, the Democrats never cease to surprise you. But the contrast with how they handled their primary versus us. I mean, Republicans, we endorsed Trump, and then we said everybody go vote. It wasn't much of a vote. I mean, he got whatever outlandish support that there was, but the Democrats they canceled their primary. I guess they either didn't understand the importance of getting people out there to vote, or didn't want some kind of low energy embarrassment of Joe Biden. I mean, I don't know ultimately what the mindset was, but it resulted in some big wins for us in some areas that we wouldn't ordinarily win.
Municipal races are important. And because they canceled those races, there were several Republicans that actually were victorious because of that. And those are things that Nikki Free. Listen, I told you the other night when we were at a meeting, you need to send a thank you note to Nikki Free. I mean, she keeps giving us.
What's her address? You got it all right.
She is the gift that keeps on giving. So I love it. So let her keep on doing it. Voter registration. Talk about voter registration in the state of Florida.
Well, so during Obama years, there was 800,000 more Democrats than Republicans. And right now there's over 900,000 more Republicans than Democrats. So what's 900 plus 800? That's almost 2 million of a switch. And we're approaching that point where we have 1 million more Republicans and Democrats in the state. And so it trickles down to every county. There's 6,700 more here in Seminole, but even some traditionally blue areas. Hillsborough County is about to flip. They're within a few points. Duval County is close. What shocks everybody is that Miami-Dade County is under 5 points. So it's conceivable that, we could see that flip red.
Yeah, Miami-Dade is interesting. A lot of Democrats get elected there. But when it comes to national, they do show up. I mean, I think they've been red quite a bit. Even when Seminole has turned purple at times, they've been red. But it's a wonderful state to live in. I mean, we are the free state of Florida.
Right.
I think that people like yourself have done that, working with Ron DeSantis and our congressman here in Seminole and Volusia, Corey Mills. So we're doing a lot of good things. But what is it that what message would you say to the Republicans is the most important thing that they need to be focused on right now?
it's the national picture is going to be the driving turnout, the driver of turnout, I should say. So you look at the last 4 years. It's the age old question of, are you better off now? Wasn't that long ago that we had a Republican in the White House. We had a stock market that was soaring, an economy that was booming. Obviously, the pandemic changed all of that, but it really was those policies that got us to that point that people forget. I mean, people forget where we were at before COVID. People forget how we were soaring towards kind of a Republican renewal coming out of the Obama years, where we took things back over, and it really was a really good season for us as a country. And then obviously once the pandemic happened, and then Biden kind of got us into this malaise where we've now accepted it as the new normal, which I think is the biggest thing you have to overcome, is people not accepting what we have had over the last 4 years as normal, because it's not normal. It's not normal that we should have to pay so much for groceries and gas and everything else. It's not normal that everything is so sky high in terms of how it costs because of inflation and because of all the policies of this administration. And so, that is going to be at the top of the ticket, the biggest thing that drives turnout. There's also a number of things at a state level where the Democrats are realizing that they don't have a lot of that energy on their side, so they're trying to manufacture it with some of these ballot referendums that you put on the ballot, that they've spent millions of dollars getting all the signatures for the abortion amendment, the recreational marijuana.
I was just going to say, look, the one thing as Republicans that we really need to be talking about is we're talking about smoking dope and killing babies. And I'm going to say it the way I said it. Look, it's on the ballot. This is a state that conservative judges have determined that they don't have, as long as the wording is right, it goes on the ballot. So now it's up to us as a conservative state to make sure that those initiatives, if you're truly behind them, especially abortion, that we support. So talk about how you feel about that. Is it going to really drive people to the polls with the president coming, as of this recording? The president is coming to Tampa.
Welcome to Florida, Mr. Biden. We hope you learned some things about how to run a state. We do things differently here in the state of Florida, so we welcome him coming to learn from us a little bit.
Okay, well, so he's coming here to make sure that he gins up the energy behind the abortion issue. So do you feel that we have the edge, or are we going to have the manpower to defeat this initiative?
I think so. We have been trying to counteract a couple of things. First of all, looking at it from a turnout driver, that's what it's going to be. It will drive turnout on their side. And the way that we will lose is if we don't try to drive turnout using the same issue on our side. So it's going to be a double-edged sword. And there are just as many people on our side who are going to be motivated to turn out against it if we allow that message to be out there. Look, there's not everybody in either party fully agrees on the issue as an issue. So what we're looking at is how to leverage the issue for people who do agree that they should vote no, making sure that if there's a 5 to 10% shift one way or another on their side, that we balance it out with a similar 5 to 10% on our side, so that it comes out as a wash. Because all other things being considered, it's going to be a great year for us. You look at where all the trends are going. The only way that we really, if we fall asleep at the wheel, that's the only way that this could really come back to haunt us. But I don't think that I have seen there's been any polling that has shown it over 60% for either one yet. Both of the supporters of both amendments claim that they have that polling, but they don't. They don't share it. And even when you look in some other states, those other states where it passed with 50%, because that's all you needed in those states, to the best of my knowledge. So this issue, as it's been presented in other states, has never got to 60. There's no polling showing it is at 60 here. And so what we're trying to counteract is the narrative that it's a foregone conclusion, it's just going to pass. That's what the proponents of these are saying, just to hopefully weaken the opposition to it. But look, if they have numbers, I'm sure they'll share them with us. But at this point, there was a USA Today poll that had them both at 49 or 50%. So they were borderline to even pass a majority, much less get the 60% in those polls.
Yeah, we've been, David and I, Jay in Washington, we do a lot of looking at this, and the marijuana has a better shot than the abortion at this point at our, as we've been looking at it. So that's great. But I'm going to bring you someplace that nobody wants to go, and I'm going to apologize in advance. So 35. So Florida House District 35, we lost that special election, but we also had a lot of turmoil in the party. And you weren't responsible for it because you weren't elected yet. But do you believe that that may have played into losing that, or was that, why did we lose that seat? And right after a Jacksonville loss that we were very surprised about, because those are going to be things that we have to overcome.
I haven't looked at the numbers. I don't have enough understanding of the internal dynamics to that to speak with any degree of specificity. Well, what I will say is at a high level, I mean, it was a very Democrat district. I think it was at least double digits by voter registration. And so it's not one of those easy wins. I think the potential to win was there. And I think it was something like a 40 vote margin.
Well, Democrats didn't win it.
So
I mean, the Democrats won it through the MPA.
You know what I'm thinking of? If you're speaking of the Nate Robertson race.
Hawkins.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
So HD 35
Yes,
went to
right,
Tom Keene.
Right.
Unfortunately, we had an Osceola County school board. Was she school board or was she commissioner? School board member, married to the commissioner, running for that seat. So it was Ziegler had just been asked to resign, and all that stuff was coming down, and I really felt it played a big role. I don't think it was the abortion issue as much, but Democrats, when they can focus on just one race and they can put all their money into one race, and we were kind of readjusting. But I apologize. That is again, let me tell my audience, that was a sort of gotcha question, because my state committee man wasn't going to be watching the 35 race as much as it's just an Orange and Osceola. But
it does go to the underlying question that you asked about the party unity question, and I think party unity is one of those things that it's hard to know exactly where it's going to hurt you until after the fact, because you don't know what races are going to be close. Some people invest into one of their favorite local races and they either lose or they win by 30 points, and then you leave asking yourself, okay, was it worth all of that trouble that I just put into it? Whereas this other race over here had a 50 vote difference, and that was the aforementioned Nate Robertson situation where it was very, very close.
Well, there was a lot of work done on that.
Right, there was, and there's like a million different things that can make 100 or so vote difference, and you don't know where that vote is where you're gonna need it. And so the thing about politics is it's like playing football without a scoreboard, where you don't know actually what the score is in those final weeks. And so you have to be unified. You have to work together. You have to assume that every race is close, and you can't take anything for granted, which is why some of the counties where there is the most infighting are counties that are not close, counties where it's either a very blue county or a very red county, where people feel like this idea that it's all kind of fixed one way or another. And so we've got all this time in our hands to spend fighting each other. Well, Orange County it's getting closer. I mean, it was up around 20, now it's at 14. If we see the same 5% shift in Orange County that we see down in Miami-Dade, that flips Miami-Dade red, well, that puts Orange County under 10 points. That opens up a lot. If a county gets under 10 points, that puts it in a purple category. That means the Democrats have to start fighting for things that they don't have to fight for right now. And it opens up some of these other down ballot opportunities for us.
Orange County has to, and this is me. This is not the state. This is not the state vice chairman or Seminole County. The Orange County must invest in the constitutionals. They need to get people to run for the constitutionals. It is a huge cost to get on the ballot, but they need to get one person in each one of those races. I mean, Joseph Haynes Davis, the only Republican that was running for supervisor of elections, is now out. We cannot allow. We do have a appointee there. I don't know if he's going to run, but Orange County has to. What is it? What are your feelings about a race that doesn't have a Republican in it?
It's a resource question. I've always been of the mindset that you should have Republicans in every race, even if they're not particularly winnable races, because anytime you can have a local champion for the party turning people out, that affects things up the ballot. So there are some blue congressional districts that haven't been really contested for years, and yet there's Republicans there. That if you turn them out, they'll vote for the president, they'll vote for the governor, or whatever else. And so if for the only purpose of turning out Republicans that affect the surrounding areas to drive turnout, it is absolutely worth it. If you have the resources. I mean, these things are expensive. Some people, you're looking at putting up your own money to qualify or whatever. And so it can be expensive and prohibitive, but wherever possible, I'm with you. We should have people in every seat.
Awesome. So we're going to get back to your race now. So this is a presidential election year that puts your position up.
Right. Yep.
So you will be qualifying. And from what I understand, so you will be qualifying and you will be running. So what do you need from Seminole County residents other than their vote? Talk to them specifically how they can find you, what they can do, and what kind of efforts you're going to be putting forward in that race.
Yeah, I mean, my website will be up, and I'll come back on the show to talk about that. I've been focusing on going throughout the state, talking to local Republican executive committees, and sharing the word about the importance of this cycle. And that's what I need. I mean, we're technically in that purple category as a county, and so what I need from my Seminole County Republicans is to get out there and support our candidates for school board, support our we got a contested election for supervisor of elections this year. Two Republicans filed there. I am deeply concerned about the current office holder. I will not be supporting him. I think we've got another great candidate, Amy Pennock, that I personally feel would be better. I'm not making an official endorsement with that, but we do have some great candidates for school board. Carl Tipton as well is championing us. He's the only registered Republican in that race. So if you care about election integrity, if you care about the future of our country, I mean, what I need you to do as a state committee man is just go vote. Don't take anything for granted. We have all of our constitutional officers up. We need to reelect our sheriff and tax collector and clerk of court and property appraiser. All of those guys are doing an outstanding job, and they deserve your support, your reelection, your vote. And what I always tell people is to find some of if you have 10, 15, $20 to spend, find a local candidate. I'm a terrible fundraiser for the state party because I tell people to focus on some of these local opportunities. But those small dollar contributions, they're the lifeblood of a local campaign.
And do what David Smith does. I believe his district is 38, so he's asking for $38.
Yeah.
Look, it doesn't take a lot. It's just a little bit of an effort because that helps him get some mailers out. Listen, Seminole County, David Smith's district is blue. Rachel Plakin's district is blue. We need you, Republicans, to make sure that you tell your NPAs or your Democrats when we get into the general election. What they've done, all the accomplishments. David Smith, first one to say yes to ever coming on one of our shows. Rachel Plakin on our show already. Amy Pinnock, already an hour we spent with Amy because we talked everything from school board to supervisor of elections. She got in the race. The supervisor of elections had already said he wasn't going to run and then changed his mind. Listen, there's a lot going on, and I thank you for sharing where you are in that race, feeling wise. But these are Doug Bankson's going to be here. We're meeting these people so that you, the voter, get to know who they are. I get to sit next to Anna Escamani tomorrow. So you please, I'm going to be all polite and everything, but please, this is going to be a really great one because we're going to have all kinds of questions answered. But we want you to vote up the ballot. We don't want you to vote down the ballot. Look, it's not about.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, we should take soil and water conservation, Karen Harriet's position, just as important as the president of the United States. When we get in there, we have an August primary. The president's not on there.
Right.
Go in there and make sure that you have the SOE. Do your homework. Vote for SOE. You got other positions. Vote for them. I mean, that you bottom to top is the only way to vote because then you know that you're doing the right thing. How many blanks get put in there? You have overvotes and undervotes. Look, overvotes are very unusual.
Right.
But undervotes, there are ballots that when we were doing a recount in Orange County, Jesse, I can tell you, there were more blanks on the recount because of who, it wasn't the governor and it wasn't, a Senate candidate. Those are the types of things I'm talking about.
You're always going to have that, but it can mitigate against it with the local organizations getting out there and pushing these candidates, particularly to your point in an August scenario where it's a more favorable electorate for us. And there are some races that we could conceivably win in August, that would take it off the table where we'd have a better chance to win it in August if a candidate can get up to 50%. For example, in a school board race,
right? 50
if
plus
a candidate can get up to 50%, then they don't have to be on the ballot in November, where there could be more of a Democrat turnout as well.
And it saves you money. I mean,
it does.
It's going to save the party money because we've already got the individual elected. Then we can put more focus on somebody who's like, hey, wait, maybe we take care of all the down ballots. We can actually focus on the top of the ballot.
Because the state party has been very successful in taking Florida out of the swing state category. So we've kind of been a victim of our own success there, to where we've kind of dropped to a tier 2 level nationally. And so a lot of the resources, I mean, President Trump is not going to invest nearly as much here because there's other places where he needs to go invest to win. And without, I mean, there's going to be some, don't get me wrong, but as the level of resources are not going to be quite as high this time as they were in past years, it kind of puts it back on the local folks to counteract that. And it puts even more of an onus on your local county parties to be the ones who are mobilizing, developing the resources and organizing, because you're not going to have as much coming in from national. So it really does heighten the importance of what we're doing, and what you're saying about these local races are going to be more important now than they even were in past cycles.
Well, and I appreciate that because that's the whole point of why David and I created Jay in Washington, is because there are places that deserve a more conservative Democrat. And there are places that deserve, to have the right person doing the job, right? We love Corey Mills. We love what he's doing. And David and I are like, I like Anna Escamani in the fact that she tries to do everything she can for her party. And I respect that. I disagree with her 100%. But the person the person is in the right place. It's too blue for anybody else.
Right.
And she can't get anything done. So that's what I love about it, because you guys keep doing the right thing. Keep that super majority. That's what I want to see.
That's the goal. Isn't it funny how when you get to know people personally beyond the politics, sometimes they're completely different than how they appear in the media, on the news, and the papers.
Oh yeah,
you know, people are people, and you know, I appreciate your perspective.
Well, I could sit and have a drink with her. I don't know if she drinks, but I would. But she's funny. She's actually kind of humorous.
Being a Democrat would make me want to drink. I mean,
I'm just glad you can drink with me. So, but other than that, what are the messages that what do we need to be doing? What can we do here in the state of Florida to help you as a party? And I know you guys are going to get organized. Don't you have a meeting coming up, a quarterly meeting?
Yeah, May 3rd and 4th. Yep.
Okay, so at that quarterly meeting, there'll be more information. So you can maybe come back. But what are your plans? What is your job as the vice chair, other than to fill in for the chairman? But what is your motivation?
My motivation is to go to the counties with a message of party unity and organization, talking about the principle of 50, how every one of us can directly impact the votes of about 50 people. And that's just a nice round number. I've actually calculated that number myself. That's what it is about for me, just as I've got to know people in my neighborhood, as I put out all the yard signs. And so people start coming to me to ask me who to vote on some of these down ballot races. I can get about 50 people minimum to vote exactly the way that I want them to, just because of the conversations that I have. And I think if we all invest in that, there are situations where your 50 votes does actually have a tangible impact and could swing the result of a close election. But it's more in the multiplication of that, because you're in my 50. Well, now we've got 100. We pull in a few more people in the Seminole County GOP, and you know, there's a couple hundred members there. And so now you start to get a much higher number if we're all pulling in the same direction. And so that's the message, you know, I'm giving throughout the state, on an organizational standpoint, also talking about these ballot referendums. So I'm kind of championing, at least being a voice for, hey, this is something we should look at. I understand there's not full unity within the party on those, but we can't be asleep at the wheel. And so the only thing I would ask is, if you are in favor of for example, recreational marijuana, that if you're a conservative, that you find a way to message that in a way that brings out Republicans, not Democrats, for that, because our interest as a party is party turnout.
So grab a libertarian and remind them that they kind of conservative.
Vote for Donald Trump and vote for
Donald Trump and your smokes.
Vote for your good Republicans all the way down the ballot. You know, like you can leverage that in a way that at the end of the day brings conservatives and Republicans out. I think it's really, really hard to do that on the abortion amendment. I don't see a way to do that. I see a way to message that on the recreational marijuana amendment. But at the end of the day, that's my job as the vice chair, is to interact on these issues, to equip people with the right message, to encourage people to unity, and to not lose sight of some of these down ballot things, amendments, local candidates, to really place the onus. That's one of my favorite things to do as I meet with a local rec, is to meet with the folks, and I always have them stand. If you're a candidate for local office, I always have them stand, and I say, these are our standard bearers. These are the people that are carrying our message at a local level, and we should back them as much as we can in order to help develop the grassroots energy that we need to be successful statewide.
So last question is going to be about fundraising. Democrats are out fundraising Republicans right now. What do you say? What do you say? Is this a concern that we must have, or is this something that we can overcome with hard footwork? Are we going to have?
Are you speaking nationally or state?
Nationally? I'm always talking that. I'm talking nationally when I come.
Because that's not true in the state.
Because fundraising wise, for the president and the Democrats overall, they're actually having a very successful time with their fundraising.
Well, we do it better in Florida. We're outraising them in Florida, and I can speak to that. In fact, we have the Democrats in the last quarter raised just over $1 million, and so did the Palm Beach County Republican Executive Committee.
Nice.
So you had one county executive committee on the Republican side, which raised as much in the last quarter as the entire state Democrat Party. And so again, it was Mar-a-Lago. Trump was there. It was a great event. I was there. We had a good time. But statewide, we raised over $3 million as a state party. Evan Power, that's what he's doing nonstop, working with all the stakeholders to make sure that the funding is there. And all we can do is, as a state party, set an example as far as how it's done. We've got some things, some good relationships, and we're going to be very successful. And a lot of the national stuff, I think Trump kind of resets the narrative there to where he's not a traditional candidate. He has, even before he was president the first time, he already had universal name ID. He already had, the ability to get on TV anytime he wanted. He didn't need a lot of the paid media that another candidate may need to build their name ID. And so now, as an ex-president and soon to be next president, he already has all of the name ID that he needs. And that's what you need money to be spent on, is to raise your name ID, which he has. So it's not an apples to apples comparison from a Republican to Democrat side at the national level, where you have two people that are either the incumbent or have been the incumbent, running against each other. The way money factors into the presidential race is going to be a little bit different than it would be in a traditional campaign. So
I made myself into a liar because I do have one more question, and it's really about mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
Talk about mail-in ballots. Am I to do it or not to do it? Because I believe that Florida does it right, personally. So tell our voters that are Republicans if they can do vote by mail, and if you support that.
You can, and Trump supports it in Florida. I don't think he supports it everywhere, but he supports it in Florida because there's a lot of things that we do in Florida that aren't done in other states in order to secure our elections. It's not a perfect system. I don't think ever voted by mail. I may be wrong about that if you check my voting history, but I always vote during early voting in person or on election day. Just because I enjoy the experience of it. And I also end up working polls. So I'm already there and I go in and cast my ballot, and I don't want to trust the postal system. I would vote, if you're going to vote by mail, do it as soon as you get the ballot, because the longer you wait, the more you're up against that deadline. And look, there's going to be a bunch of political mailers. The Postal Service is going to be burdened. There are mailers that are sent and don't arrive until weeks later because of the overload. It's nobody's fault except the volume of it. And so if it's within 10 days of the election, I would never drop that in the mail, just because you don't know, and you want it to be there by 7:00 on election day. And so my personal thing is voting in person. There's voting by mail, though, is an option. And it is something that we are prioritizing. In fact, we're going to have some phone bankers in our Seminole County headquarters calling Republicans who voted by mail in 2022 but haven't requested a mail ballot for this cycle. What a lot of people don't know is that you have to request it again, even if you've requested it in the past, because the legislature, in order to clean up some election integrity things, basically canceled all of the outstanding vote by mail requests.
Yes, because before you could have like 3 consecutive elections, you could get that ballot,
right? And
they were going to homes that these people were no longer there, and it needed to be cleaned up. So look, our state was first to do that, and I appreciate it. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on Morning Constitution. We got to get you on. You can't make this shit up next.
Let's do it.
Look, I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you for coming to Precinct 58.
Let's do it.